Kind of one of the foundations I want to run with this show is the idea that self-empowerment through just understanding yourself, where the mainstream media is basically telling everybody what's wrong with each other, whereas I like to see what's right with the world. What can we focus on in a positive light or in a productive light?
John Lennon. Love is all there is. Yeah.
So let's just take it into the experience of altered states of consciousness in a term to acknowledge and learn about and understand oneself to best utilize your position.
In my various books, in ESP, I have 102, in the 8th chapter, I have 102 different states of hypnosis that can be distinguished one from another. You understand? Like, this is where this state, your finger went numb, this state, your arm went numb.
Yep.
Okay.
So still counting? Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Are you recording okay?
The screen went off the back. I was just making sure.
What's that?
It has a screen on the back, and it turned off. I was just making sure it still worked.
I see.
But yeah.
So, in the second book, I talk about an ontology of mystical states of different layers of cosmic consciousness or awareness. And we start with, Gowan talked about them in trance, art, and creative states of consciousness. The trance states were associated with shamanism and things like that, where you don't have any memory of. You can place your consciousness in the eye of an eagle and see what the eagle sees, but you don't know how you did that, and when the whole thing is over, you're left with the experience, but having experienced it, but no way to describe it. That's trance states. Okay. Art, which is called parataxic modes of consciousness, have to do with dreams and mythology and your relationship to metaphor and the way you relate to things in your environment. And then the highest states, which I write about, are syntactic modes of consciousness, what's called creative states, where you take responsibility for the thoughts you choose to entertain. Most people don't realize it, but imagination is reality. That is what it is. And so to flurry in that place structures the water, does everything in your body in terms of creating a relationship, what you think reality is.
Yeah.
And so if it has boogeymen, then they exist.
Yeah.
Now, the reason Joseph Campbell was adamant about the fact that we have... Okay, so this would include things like biofeedback, where you learn how to control some of your autonomic functions. One example would be allergies. Allergies are not a disease or a problem with your body. It's your body's just over-responding and releasing histamines. So you could go in and reprogram your body to not respond to those allergens as sharply. How do you do that? Well, there is a 10-minute window when you're exposed to an allergen and when the eyes start to actually itch, and you know it. Oh my God, I'm going to be bothered. You know that. That place you just did, that's histamine. Now you know what it sounds like in your body. That's what biofeedback does. It teaches you how to listen to different sounds in your body that you would normally call autonomic. Take care of it. Let the body, heal itself. Now, what you do is it's like a snake bite. You lower your temperature. That means you lay down, put a cold compress across the eyes or whatever part of the organs are going to be affected by histamines. Usually it's your sinuses, eyes. And you roll your eyes up into your head so you go into a light state of alpha. A very relaxed state. How you know where that place is when you don't see things anymore. There's simply geometry. There's usually a meiotic jerk, like that, as your brain state shift. It's called a meiotic jerk. And you then are in an alpha state, or high alpha, close to consciousness. But that's where you can, if you hold that by rolling your eyes up, so you can't really see things, what you're seeing is geometry, color, pattern. That's another layer of awareness. And that's the place where you can change your histamine release. It takes only one time. You do that once, like that,
know how to do it.
and you're no longer usually allergic. A couple times if it's necessary. What you don't want to do is irritate. It takes a discipline so that you feel the itch, you cool it, drop straight down, usually on your back, you know, so that you can be real relaxed, allowing everything to relax. You hold it for about 20 minutes. And if you do that, you have reprogrammed your body in terms of its response, just like you would with snake bite, and you immediately tourniquet and or cool the area, slow circulation. Right. What you're trying to do is slow things down a little bit. It's kind of a bitch to be in Iraq or something and then get exposed to, shoot. I mean, that could be a real bad situation. You know, sneezing at the wrong time, etc. No, being able to control autonomic functions is important. And so that is a syntactic mode of consciousness with awareness of your body. You're now starting to take conscious control, which is also not real, but we'll talk about that another time. More questions.
More questions.
I know, isn't it weird?
Yeah.
That's because a master is not in conflict with anything. That's one of the first definitions of a master. They're not in conflict with anything. So the big question comes, how do you recognize one another? Well, a Satguru will write like a guru will write. A Satguru is a fifth plane usually. A fifth plane mystic, I'm not. I'm Pure Vilayat Khan with fourth plane. I knew him, used to smoke pot with him out on Shaw Island up in the San Juan. So Pure Vilayat Khan. I knew all these people. As I grew up, I was a seeker like you are, and I went out to study under individual people. And I had my own divine rights, you know, in terms of being a true seeker. And so I asked questions. I got to meet, who is that guy from, he's Theosophical Society, out on Indralaya on Orcas Island, from the Philippines. He was part of the Quest bookstore, you know, Theosophical Society. I forget his name now. He was from the Philippines. He was very interesting. I did studies with Tony Agpawa, psychic surgery. That would be one of the things, the military. What I did is I brought Tony Agpawa into the University of Washington, had a battery of doctors sitting in a ring watching him. And we had taken and sewed sutures inside a primate. And he was to remove them. You know, psychic surgery. And usually there's a lot of sleight of hand. I don't think most of the people that do that know how they do it. Okay, that would suggest prototaxic modes or trance states. They know it, and they might, when they're moving cancer out of someone's body, have all this plastic sarcoma coming out, all, you know, throwing whips on out. What's that called? Apportation. You know, where they create an illusion for the mind to be able to connect how it would work. Is it real?
What's real?
What's real is the mind. Thinking they're cured of cancer. So one of the experiments I did with Dr. Carl Motte, he was director of pathology at the UW. And there was Mary Baker Eddy, had her husband was dying of cancer. And so they identified all the cancer, and she then went to the Philippines, had Tony Agpawa remove the sarcoma. He came back cured, and then later died of cancer, but not the cancer that he had. That was gone. A new cancer. So, what is cancer?
It's a parasite of the mind.
Anger usually is where cancer first originates, with anger. It has to do with internal landscapes and the idea of having control of your belief systems enough that you don't allow certain kinds of thoughts to occur. It's important to stay pure. It requires discipline to do that. It isn't a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, they see these saints and they sit there and they smile and, you know, everything's... And how do they do that? You know, I struggle. So what is that about? And this leads to the concepts in magic of the distinction between intent and intentionality. And that's called the Stanford Argument. It's out of Stanford, and the idea of what happens at the end of the day, the intent, what you actually end up doing, whether you did it kicking and screaming, or you did it like Buddha where it flowed. It's, at the end of the day, what you end up doing is your true will. And intentionality is when Maxwell Smart said to Agent 99, missed it by that much. Intentionality.
So then how much of that comes down to, I guess you call it fate? Where,
Fate?
Yeah. Where...
Character and calling. James Hillman has written a book called The Soul's Code, In Search of Character and Calling. And your character are the nooks and crannies in how you choose to end up doing what you do.
Yeah.
You can kick and scream. Okay. Anger is always directly associated with cancer. It's the way illnesses in Jungian psychotherapy, imaginal psychology, that form, illness is seen as the way the higher self communicates to the lower self. And that once you get the message, there's no need for the illness. Internal landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, the glass is
there
half
to
full
teach you something.
or half empty. There's a third glass, and it's full of piss because it's yellow. Yeah, well, a metaphor, again.
Yeah.
How you choose to see what you're getting and what's happening. So the metaphor I've always used is everything happens for a reason, and everything leads to something better. And when you look at things like that, now, in the world today, there's going to be a need for accountability.